welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. On today's video, as you guys can see, I have two brand new watches from Proxima in front of me. I have the PX1711, which is homaging the Serica. As you guys know, there's been a fair few homages to this particular design. The first one being the Ixtau, then Tondorio followed up, and now we have one from Proxima. And it is a bit different, so we'll cover those differences in this video. We also have another model. This is the PX1703. Again, the same case, same bracelet, but a considerably different look to the dial. So throughout this video, I'm going to cover both these dials and of course the specifications around there. But bear in mind, you will see some similarities because this case and bracelet is from one of the much older models, which I have reviewed before. I think it was a Christopher Ward homage, which was an absolute beauty, and they did really smash that watch out of the park. But what about these recycled cases and bracelets on these, two rather distinctive looks? So we'll cover that throughout this video. So first up, let's cover the dimensions. As I stated, we've already seen this case from Proxima. It's an incredible case, really well finished, and it's probably the best cases to date. And of course, we looked at the bracelet. So let's cover the dimensions so we can jog everyone's memory. Dimension wise, the case is 39 millimeters across, spot on. You've got a very nice thickness of 11.8 millimeters. You've got a very compact lug to lug of 45.5 millimeters, including these female end links to the bracelet, a lug width of 20 mil, and an overall weight of around 135 grams on both watches. Now, the reason I'm doing both watches today is because we're aware that 11/11 sale is just around the corner, so I want to get as much content out to you guys before that sale, and also make some sale videos just to get a lot of information to you guys so you can make your best informed decisions and look at the best watches to buy. Now, with regard to specifications, on the face of it, both watches are spec'd very similarly. They both have a 120 click unidirectional bezel. They've both got a coin edge style bezel. They both use box style sapphire crystal with AR coating, and of course the steel case as I mentioned. They both have 200 meters of water resistance. With the one to my left, the Serica homage does not have a date function. It is dateless, but they both run the PT5000 movement, which when you buy from Proxima, the PT5000 movements, in my experience, are regulated from Proxima. These particular ones are running very well, zero beta error, and just under 5 seconds a day. And that's really good to hear because not all brands give the amount of attention to detail that Proxima do. That's one of the key things about Proxima. Anybody who's purchased from them know that they give you a picture of your particular watch on the time grapher, and they do regulate it if need be. Now, where they differ slightly in specification is this Proxima to my right, the PX1703, does not have an exhibition caseback. It is a steel caseback, whereas the Serica homage, the 1711, does actually have an exhibition caseback, but which the glass has been confirmed to be sapphire crystal. So, as everyone calls it, a sapphire sandwich. Now, Proxima don't shy away from giving you high quality specifications, and that is evident in hand with what you see here. You've got a loomed bezel insets on both watches as well, so they do give you, I think, quite a lot for your money. But on the price side, there is a difference between both models. The PX1711 is coming in at 191 currently, and the PX1703 is coming in a bit more expensive at £230. Now, let's discuss the price before we move on, because the price for me doesn't really make sense because, as I said, these cases and bracelets are recycled. They've made maybe 5 or 6 different models with this one case and bracelet, which means they are saving money when it comes to coming up with new designs because they are using the same old case and of course the bracelet. So that means their cost is mainly on the dial and the handsets, which I don't think should be too much, and which should mean that these watches should be coming in at closer to £150 because they do have a bit of cost savings. So that's just a few points on the pricing aspect and what I think. And now let's move on to both watches and let's look at the individual characteristics that you are getting. So let's start off with the PX1711. Now, you guys should have seen the recent comparison done with the Tondorio and the Ixtau, and I've got the Ixtau here just for reference. And you can see they are vastly different, but the same design basically. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, the one design that I'll always go back to is the one from Ixtau because it's this kind of unique case or unique design that Serica came up with, which made me like this particular design. Having said that, this Proxima is equally still well built, and it will appeal to people that want something different or they weren't too much of a fan of the original Serica style look. So what we have with Proxima is, with regards to dial, you do have a few dial and bezel options, and you also have a few text options. I actually went for the Proxima text because if you guys follow this channel, you know how I feel about this particular font. or the name. I actually really like it. And Proxima have been, for over the past year or two, they've been jumping around from name to name, causing a lot of confusion. They've even had the Unidiver, they've had a unicorn logo, and I wanted something back from Proxima which had the original text, which was present on the MM300 homage that I bought from them. So which is why I went for the text version, and to be honest, it doesn't look too bad. It looks quite good. And what we do have here is still a really well built dial. There's one thing I don't like about the dial, is the absence of those minute track just along the 12 o'clock marker. It just looks a bit odd, looks a bit strange. I think they could have still printed them on. One of the other key difference is that you'll notice is that this dial has applied markers, whereas the X dial, and of course the original, has printed loom in terms of hour markers. Now, I don't know what that does for the watch. I don't know really how I feel about that. It is different, it doesn't look bad, and of course it is the high quality dial because you've got applied hour markers there with polish outlines, applied batons and dots in place of those printed loom indices. So it is a nice look and is quite different. In terms of the handset, you've got a full white handset, great legibility against that black background, and of course with a white minute track, so it gives you a really good look, nice contrast on there. You also got some nice red printed text above the 6 along with automatic. So yeah, it looks good, right? I've got no issues with the design. Actually, the build quality, as I said, Proxima has proven time and time again they use really high quality dials and watch pods. Now, with regards to the dial, the loom on this, the loom is incredible. It's BGW9. You can see the loom markers on the bezel insert as well as the dial and the handset. There isn't much difference between all those different elements. There's a lot of layers applied, and it is very nice to look at, and you'll have great longevity with this. Now, moving over to the bezel insert, it's similar to what we've seen from the others. You've got this split between brushed steel and ceramic, and it looks nice. You know, there's not much else to comment about. I do like the pip at 12, how it's been subset into the bezel insert. So this bezel is 120 click unidirectional. Let's check it out. It does have a good level of resistance. It's not very light. It is very precise, and it does also line up. There's no bounce or playback in these. Proxima generally do have really good bezels. As I said, it's a coinage bezel, so I do like the build quality in the hand. It is definitely there. I also like that box crystal. I love that profile and how it kind of assimilates into that sloped bezel insert, which is really nice to look at. Great distortions around the edges, obviously. The crown is 6.5 millimeters, and on this version they've actually signed it with a flower. Now, I don't know what that has to do with Proxima, and this is one of my biggest issues with Proxima, is their branding is a bit all over the place. You guys have seen it. You've got Unidiver, Omnium, I think that was another brand that they played around with, and just a whole mess of logos. In fact, when you actually go into the store and look through the products, it's such a mess because of just so much different branding out there, and it does make it very confusing, and I wish they hadn't done that. So moving on to the case back, as I said, see-through with some specifications around there, which is good. Now I want to point you guys to a certain feature which is present on the case, and maybe I missed it in the first version of this, the CW design. But if you look at the quick release bars, now this is very important, is that they don't point out, they're actually flattened, and this is also present when I look at Christopher Ward watches, and that flat end makes a hell of a difference when wearing this on wrist. The quick release bars, which do poke out, do actually dig into your wrist if you wear the watch quite close to your wrist. So with that, let's move on to the PX1703. Now the PX1703 is again very similar but still very different. I love what they've done here with the color arrangement. You've got orange and white. It looks very bright, very vibrant. It's a white enamel dial. It's a bit more of an off-white, creamy white when you look at it in real life. On camera it comes up just a bit brighter than it actually is. But yeah, it's got some same unique features from Proxima. You've got the nice text Proxima logo, which I like, and I've battled for this text and logo so often with Proxima. I think they've had enough of me, but finally they've kind of sticking to a font which works in my opinion. You've got a date wheel at 3 o'clock. You've also got orange minute track, and you've got a matching accented minute hand, which I really like. So this blocky dial and the blocky hands, it's a good look. I'm not too sure if it works on this case design, but I'll give you more on that later on when I summarize. Now with the bezel insert, it's actually confirmed to be sapphire. It also does fully illuminate, so we check out that loom shot, it's really bright. Again, solid BGW9. There's no difference really in shade between the hour marker, the hands, and the bezel insert. It's all nicely done. The bezel on this one, the rotation is slightly different to the one we checked out before. It's a bit lighter on resistance, but again, there's no movement, there's no wobbliness, and it still feels really well made. and it does line up. Now they have done a bit of work on the bezel since they released the CW homage. I think I felt that was a bit loose, if I can remember from the top of my head, and this is a bit better. Really like the vibrant choice. I really like how well it stands out. I love the legibility of it, but one thing which I have an issue with, of course, is the handset. You guys have probably noticed that they do run a bit short, especially that minute hand. It's too far away from the minute track for my liking, and it's too close to the hour hand. And of course the seconds hand could have done with being just a bit longer, where that tip actually sits on that minute track. And I think if they had done that, it would have been a bit better. But nonetheless, as I said, every aspect of both these watches has been thought out. It's a really good quality offering, and there's no real weaknesses to both watches. Just to give you guys a quick summary over the case, I know we've seen it before. You've got very soft A brushing in a linear fashion along the lugs, which matches the brushing present on the end links, which is nice to see. And of course, you've got these polished highlights going around the side of the lugs, and then you've got the brushing in the center, followed by a polished underside, which is also sloped, which gives you the real great comfort on wrist. Now there is a little difference between both cases, where you can see very thin slithers on the edges of this case. When we move over to the Serica style case, we can see much larger bevels. So it's a nice touch to differentiate both cases. I appreciate that. I know I've said they're exactly the same, but they have made a slight difference, which is, and I feel they try to mirror the look that the Ixtendao got very right. So it's a much larger bevel, polished. Again, very nicely done, and this is such an incredible case from Proxima, so I don't really blame them for maximizing what they can do with the case and just, you know, choosing so many different designs. So I would say they need to be quite particular or quite careful with the dial choices they go for. Kind of stick to that theme of homage and Christopher Ward. That would really work out really well for them. And this one, you know, it's a good attempt as well. It's a good experiment actually for them to go so bold on the color choice and the design. The bracelet itself, as we looked at before, it's okay. It's a very good sporty bracelet. It's got a great taper from 20 down to around 16 millimeters at the clasp. You do have a steroid clasp, and on this version you've got a steroid crown also. Again, inconsistent branding, but you do have screw-in links. You've got milled clasp as you saw, nicely polished bevels around the side of the clasp, twin pushers, and yeah, 4 micro adjustments and screw-in links. So it's a good attempt from Proxima. There's a couple of things which they are lacking on, which I'll talk about just shortly. But overall, they are really well built, and I'm quite impressed with them. But just the caveat of talking about the price, perhaps they could be a bit cheaper. So on wrist, both watches do sit really well. As I said, when the first version of this case came out, incredible to wear, very comfortable on wrist with those flattened quick release bars. It makes it even better. It's a lovely sporty bracelet, very basic, but it definitely does work. Great sizing as well. You really can't go wrong with 39 millimeters with a very compact lug to lug of 45 millimeters with those female end links. It's the perfect sports watch in my opinion. So for Proxima, I'd just say, just be careful with some of the designs and maybe try to think a bit more out the box, so they could make some really good watches with this particular case and bracelet setup. Now, with regards to the PX1711, with this particular style, although they've pulled it off quite well, I have to say, on this case and bracelet, it does work. For me, if I want this particular style, I will definitely still be sticking with the Ixtendao. That's my preference, but that is, of course, subjective. If you want something different, it definitely is worth going for. Like I said, the applied markers do look somewhat different to what we saw on the Ixtendao. But overall, as you guys saw, it's evident that the build quality is present. They're using high quality materials, great workmanship, and of course, with a regulated movement, there is quite a lot of thought and attention gone into this. So yeah, guys, check them out. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. That's it from me today, and I'll see you on the next video.